Welcome back to the Caregiver Minute, where every weekday family and professional caregivers gather to refine their skills, gain inspiration, and prepare to serve. One of the great blessings of our modern world is also a little bit of a curse at times. It's the blessing of tremendous amounts of information. But now that we have all this information at our fingertips, we have to figure out what's actually important. We have to sift through it. And for family and professional caregivers, especially those who are looking for answers and insights and guidance, that can be difficult. I want to share with you today an insight or two about how to look at research that comes out and how to read headlines that might be pretty attention-grabbing, might be pretty compelling, but they may also not be saying exactly what we think that they're saying, or at least how we emotionally react to them. The key principle that I want to share with you today is that of absolute risk versus relative risk. Let me give you an example from the medical world. Many years ago, a drug called Lipitor came out. Lipitor is a statin drug. It's a cholesterol-lowering drug. And Lipitor was touted for its 33% reduction in heart attacks. Now that sounds pretty amazing, 33% reduction. Who wouldn't want to have that? But if you ask a simple question, what are the numbers needed to treat? Then it immediately teases out the difference between relative risk and absolute risk. So if you look at 100 people in a Lipitor study who took a placebo, a sugar pill, 97 out of 100 did not have a heart attack during the course of the trial. And for those who actually got Lipitor, 98 out of 100 did not have a heart attack. In other words, you have to treat 100 people to see the effect of that drug. And it changes things for one person. But the difference between 97 and 100 is 3. The difference between 98 and 100 is 2. So there's a difference of 1 in 3. Well, that's 33%. That is a relative risk. That's very different than talking about absolute risk. Now, this can get a little bit tricky, so let me give you another example. Some of you have heard of the Women's Health Initiative study that was done in the early 2000s, and they were looking at the effectiveness of hormone replacement therapy, specifically using synthetic hormones like Premarin and Prempro. And that study was actually ended a little bit early, and there were headlines all over the media saying things like, hormone replacement causes 136% increased risk of blood clots. That sounds pretty dire. Nobody wants a blood clot. Everybody knows that's incredibly life-threatening. But let's go back to absolute risk versus relative risk. For those that were taking a placebo in the Women's Health Initiative, the rate of blood clots was 0.8 in 1,000. And for those that were actually getting the synthetic hormones, the rate of blood clots was 1.9 in 1,000. Well, that may be a 136% increase, but only if we're talking about relative risk comparing those two groups, the placebo versus the trial group. That doesn't have to do with the absolute risk. How often does it really occur? Well, 1.9 times in 1,000 is still pretty rare. The North American Menopause Society on their website says, double the risk of a rare event is still a very rare event. It's kind of like saying that if you buy 2 lottery tickets instead of 1, you have a 100% greater chance of winning the lottery. But you're probably not going to win the lottery. So if you're out there looking for answers and you're reading headlines and you see something that's pretty compelling, I hope you'll slow down just a little bit and ask yourself, what is this really telling me? What are the numbers needed to treat to see this effect? What's the difference here between absolute risk and any sort of relative risk reduction? When it comes to numbers needed to treat, if you're talking something like thyroid medication, the number needed to treat is 1. If someone has thyroid problems and you treat them, almost everybody shows some kind of benefit. If you're talking Lipitor, well, you have to treat 100 people to save 1 from a heart attack. That doesn't mean that that's an inappropriate medication under certain contexts, but if we're really doing a risk-benefit kind of analysis, we have to look carefully at the data and understand some of those differences. I hope this little tutorial in some basic statistics is helpful to you as you're awash in information and looking for answers. And I look forward to seeing you again soon for another episode of the Caregiver Minute.